All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. Happy Friday. We have just about made it to the end of the week, almost to the weekend, and it is a very, very big weekend, of course. Super Bowl is coming up. We're going to have our final injury report later today. I know there isn't a ton of injury drama this week, but there's going to be some stuff that is worth noting as we go towards this game. And I know everybody is excited, everybody's plugged in, some people are nervous, some people aren't. So, obviously, all eyes are on this upcoming game, and then once we get through the game, whatever happens, then people can either take some time away or start focusing on the off season. But me being me on this channel, I gotta keep an eye on both things at the same time, and there's something that happened last night that involves not this upcoming game, but I couldn't help but take notice of it anyway, and if you saw it, you probably know what I'm talking about. All right, everybody, before we go any further into this video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about the Sleeper app. We are just about to the Super Bowl. Now would be a great time to get on Sleeper. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, you can get news, you get alerts with blazing fast speed, all kinds of sports stuff. You can play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. Enjoy sports together with a community. Download the Sleeper app today. And when you do, use promo code SBN for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And also, utilize the free $20 entry with no deposit required. All you have to do is make an account for that one. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have some fun with sports this year. So, if you watched the NFL honors ceremony last night, you probably saw Matthew Stafford accept the league MVP award. And one thing that he did while accepting that award is announce that he is going to be back for the 2026 season, which isn't terribly surprising to me. I think that as an athlete, it's really hard to retire after you have a season that good. And while this was a case where it was at least possible, especially with the Rams going out in the NFC Championship game the way they did, it kind of made sense that he would want to come back. So he announced that, and then you've got this from Rob Maddie, who had a conversation with Stafford after the ceremony, where he basically confirmed it. Stafford is coming back for 2026, and he will be a Ram. So, obviously, this doesn't affect this upcoming game. We're not playing the Rams. We already beat the Rams. We already beat Stafford. It certainly affects the team for 2026. And when I saw this, obviously I got mixed feelings, right? Mixed thoughts on this one. So, Stafford, great quarterback, had a great season. Almost certainly the best season of his career. I don't know what other season would be better than the one that he just had. And that includes a season where he did win a Super Bowl, and he's had other really good seasons too. So, I mean, great quarterback, not the kind of quarterback that I'm excited to play against in games, just because he is one of the very few guys that has proven he can get the better of this Mike McDonald defense. And he did it 2 weeks ago. He did it a few weeks before that. He played really good in both of those games in Seattle, and we won both games, but Stafford proved that he was one of the guys that could get you. And it's not like he always whoops us, right? You go back to week 11 when we played them in LA, Stafford did nothing in that game, but Stafford has proven that he can play through it. So, obviously, as a Seahawks fan, it's it's you got mixed feelings, right? Because on the one hand, really good quarterback. On the other hand, I think that one element at play here is that the cliff will come eventually, and he is very old, and he does have a lot of miles on him. And uh, I've had this conversation before. You don't know when that cliff is coming, and when it comes, it really is a cliff. Most NFL quarterbacks, they go from the top to the bottom in like an instant. It's not like basketball. Basketball players, they kinda gradually get worse over the course of several years, like, it feels like LeBron James gets 6% worse every season, right? And there are a few different reasons for that, but quarterbacks, that one year, they're one of the best, and then the next year, they're barely starting caliber. I saw it with Peyton Manning. I saw it with Brett Favre. Brett Favre was big time an example of this. Tom Brady kinda. The one year they're right up there with the elite quarterbacks in the game. Everything's going fine, and then it feels like you snap your fingers and it's over. Some Seahawks fans think that Russell Wilson's downfall can be traced to one specific play against the Buffalo Bills where he got a concussion. They think he was never the same after that, and that was the moment where you went from Russell Wilson, the elite quarterback, to Russell Wilson, the barely deserving of being in the NFL quarterback. So when you're playing with fire when you're talking about an older quarterback like Stafford. You are. And also, if the Rams didn't get Stafford back, what do you think they would have done? Because McVay and Snead or Snead, Les Snead signed extensions this offseason. So they're planning on being the coach and the GM in LA for some time. And there is no way that McVay is going to come back to coach some unproven, not even all that exciting rookie. Like, especially from this draft class. What is Sean McVay going to draft, if he's lucky, Ty Simpson, but more likely somebody like Drew Allar, and then try to teach him his offense and go through the growing pains of a young quarterback for a couple of seasons and just hope that he comes out on the other side a really good guy? That's probably not something McVay wants to do. If Stafford had retired, I think McVay would have demanded, bring me a quarterback that we know is good now. And when I say good, I mean very good. Remember, Sean McVay is the guy who demanded to get Jared Goff out of town after a season where Jared Goff had won a playoff game with a bad finger because he didn't feel like Goff was good enough and he didn't want to mess around with him anymore. And he was like, you got to get me something better. I don't care how many picks you have to give up. I don't care what the trade looks like. Give up whatever it takes. Go get me a better quarterback. And he ended up with Stafford, and the Rams gave up a ton of picks and they won a Super Bowl. So Goff is not a terrible quarterback, right? He's decent. I'm not a huge fan of Jared Goff, but he can get the job done. But to McVay, getting the job done is not enough. You got to be the reason why your team wins. You got to be on that next level. So I don't think that McVay would just be like, okay, bring me Tua. Go get Tua, and we'll turn him into what I had with Jared Goff. No, that's clearly not good enough for McVay. He would probably go out and get Joe Burrow, or if it's possible to trade for him with his contract, I don't know, Dak Prescott, another really good quarterback. So it's not like getting Stafford out means the Rams are going to have some bad quarterback. There's no universe where the Rams are going to go into 2026 with McVay and Jimmy Garoppolo as their starting quarterback or something like that. If it's not Stafford, it would be somebody else. And that somebody else would be kind of more of a sure thing because they'd be younger, right? Joe Burrow's relatively in his prime. Dak is past his prime, but he's a lot younger than Stafford. So it doesn't matter. So kind of mixed thoughts on this one. But the reason why I'm really making this video isn't even really to talk about that. The reason why I'm making this video is to basically say the NFC West that we had to deal with in 2025, get ready for it to come back in 2026. This is going to probably be the best division in football again. This announcement from Stafford, I think pretty much locked it in. Stafford is not going to come back to a team that is capped out at like a 10-win season and maybe one playoff win. Stafford is coming back for a team that can win the Super Bowl and can win the Super Bowl without him being Superman. And that's kind of what ended up happening this year. As much as the Rams tried to put together a complete team, by the end of the year, not much on that team worked other than the offense. And I imagine that with Stafford coming back, probably for one last ride, but even if it's not for one last ride, one of the last rides with Stafford, you're definitely going to move heaven and earth to make sure you have a team that has a very good chance to win it all next year. So the Rams, who maybe in another universe would have chilled out this offseason and just said, we're going to kind of do a rebuild here. Maybe McVay retires to go work for Amazon, and the Rams just decide, you know what, we need to reset a little bit here. And we do have young pieces we can build around, but we're going to need to find a new quarterback. Let's play it a little bit slow. That's probably not happening anymore. And this is a team that should be able to improve their defense with additions in a couple of areas. They have a great defensive line. They've got decent linebackers, decent safeties. If they can add corners, I think that defense will be one of the better defenses in the league again. Remember, that defense was playing great until about halfway through the season, and then they became one of the worst defenses in football. But I think the problems with that defense are mostly fixable. You can add in the secondary. You can probably get a little bit better at linebacker if you want to. And I think that it is something that you can repair. So you've got that going on top of the fact that the Rams, other than Stafford, a lot of young guys on that team right now. Like Puka should be good for a while. Kyren Williams should still be good for a while. He's not super young, but he's fine. Guys on that defensive line, relatively young, other than Poona Ford. And Poona Ford isn't a huge part of what they do, I don't think. He's relatively replaceable. So it is a team that is in a position to really load up and be stacked for 2026. And then you have the 49ers. And look, the 49ers, I know they lost Saleh, but they did make a pretty good hire, I think, with Raheem Morris at defensive coordinator. They're going to get Bosa back. They're going to get Fred Warner back. And Fred Warner had never really gotten hurt before this last year. So he's not like an injury-prone guy who always misses time. Like with Bosa, you could say that. But I don't know if you could say that with Warner. He just kind of got a little unlucky this year. It happens. They're going to probably improve that offensive line in some ways because there was some shakiness there. They're going to get Kittle back eventually. I will admit that I don't think Kittle is ever going to be the same, and he's probably going to come back midway through the season. But they are getting Trent Williams back, and until that body gives out, he is still about as good as it gets at the left tackle spot. Obviously, they still have Purdy for a while, and he has proven that he's at least a good quarterback. And look, I know they've got players that are getting old. I know that it feels like the window is closing on them, but it doesn't look like they're willing to close the window. It looks like they are going to overextend themselves to keep that window open with Bosa, with Warner, with Williams, with Purdy. I mean, Purdy's a little bit younger, but McCaffrey, they might move him to slot receiver. Kittle, they'll hopefully get him back midway through the season or something. And Kyle Shanahan can make it work. With Kyle Shanahan, the players are great, but Kyle Shanahan can produce results without having the greatest talent around him. And I don't think they're going to go anywhere yet either. I think that if they can have a moderately healthy 2026 season, they're going to be a danger too. And they do have a little bit of room this offseason to play with to try to get better, try to find a real number one receiver. There are going to be some opportunities for them to get one. And again, if they're going to try to keep the window open for guys like Trent and McCaffrey and Kittle and to a certain extent Bosa, that means you're going out and spending your resources on whatever you can find to make yourself better. You're not going to sit back and watch the other teams in your division just run away with it. So those those two teams, Rams and 49ers, I don't think they're tapping the brakes this offseason. You could argue the 49ers should, but I don't believe that they will unless Trent Williams tells them that he's retiring or Kittle does or something like that. They're going to have to be forced to tap the brakes. And of course, the Rams, now with Stafford coming back, there's no chance they tap the brakes. So the Niners and Rams are going to be very good next year in all likelihood. Now, look, the Cardinals, that's different, right? I don't think the Cardinals are going to be too much better than they were last season. I will say, I think they made a good head coach hire. I think LaFleur is a good hire. I think that was about as good as they could have done. And I think they're headed in the right direction. I'm not going to say they're going to be good in 2026, though. I don't think that's realistic. They don't really have a way to get a good quarterback right now, unless they want to throw a bunch of money at Daniel Jones or sign Aaron Rodgers or something like that. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say that the Cardinals are going to be good this year or even decent. I don't think they will be. Um, they don't really have a lot of resources. It's not a good draft, so they have a high pick, but it doesn't mean as much as it normally does. So yeah, okay. I would definitely say that's a team that is going to take a couple of years before they try to go make something happen. Maybe in 2027 they can get their quarterback of the future and at least be on the right track. But the NFC West is going to be a very tough division again next year. There was some possibility of the Rams kind of pulling back and the 49ers pulling back, but at this point, and there's plenty of time for stuff to still happen, that's doesn't seem like the direction we're headed. The Rams are clearly going to be all in. I think both the Rams and 49ers are going to be involved in the Max Crosby stuff. I think there's a good chance both those teams try to go get Crosby. And if they do that, that's going to supercharge their attempts to go win it all in 2026. So, number one, just be prepared for the challenge next year. Nothing's going to be easy for this Seahawks team. They're going to have to really go through some brutal games to get to where they want to get to. And also, make sure you finish the job on Sunday, because in a division like this, the opportunity isn't going to be given to you, and you have it right now, so seize it. All right. See you guys later, Go Hawks. A little bit of a longer video, but yeah, this division, I don't think it's going to go away. Maybe the Niners, right? Maybe the Niners have that year where everything falls apart because they've got so many older players, but I think they're going to do whatever it takes this offseason to stave that off. All right. You guys to later today. Injury report coming out. I think it's going to be around 1, but we'll see. Go Hawks, and that's what we're dealing with, people.